Hello, this is Justin from the Tech Train here, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create your own fully 3D dice in Microsoft PowerPoint. The dice is completely customizable. You can have it look however you want with whatever you want on each side. The dice is very simple to animate. You can see that I'm turning it over and rolling it around here in this presentation, and it is actually very simple to make. We're going to use just a few simple tools to do this. If you want to, you can have images on each side of the dice with numbers, your logo, colors, whatever you want to have on the sides of the dice. And as you can see, it isn't just simply an animation, it is a fully 3D object that we've got inside PowerPoint. And we can animate this however we want, zoom in, roll it around, and we can even apply certain animations to it, such as having it tumble. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to do this in Microsoft PowerPoint 2016. You will need Windows 10 for this particular tutorial, but without further ado, let's get started. So for this tutorial, you'll need three things. You'll need Microsoft PowerPoint. I'm using PowerPoint 2016 because this allows us to insert 3D models. You can see we have the option to insert 3D models here. So I'm using Office 2016 with a 365 subscription. So this works if you have that option. The second thing that you'll need is Windows 10 because you will need a free piece of software you can get with Windows 10, which is the 3D Builder. I'll put the link in the description below, and if you've got Windows 10 you can download this tool for free. There's one other thing you'll need as well. It's also free, and this is Blender. So Blender is a program that you can get online. Here's the website, blender.org. You can see there's a download button here, so you don't have to register, don't have to sign up, spend a penny, nothing at all like that. Just download Blender. So you can download Blender here. You can download the Windows 3D Builder just here. Again, it's free, and as long as you've got Windows 10, PowerPoint 2016 with a 365 subscription, and these two products, we can get started. So let's see how we can build this 3D cube. So first of all, in PowerPoint, I'm just going to change the layout of this to blank, and I'll just set the background to a color so that we can see the 3D object in front of it. Let's just set a quick color here with a dark blue, perhaps going to a pale blue, something like that. So there we are. That's our background that we can then use to put the dice in front of it. Now we'll need to have a second PowerPoint file open because we're going to make the front and sides of the dice using PowerPoint. Now of course you could use a graphics program, and if you're familiar with using the GIMP or Photoshop or whatever you use, then of course you could do that in those programs. However, I'm not going to assume that you have anything else, so rather than showing you how to do this in Photoshop and you not having Photoshop, I'll show you how to do this in PowerPoint. So here we are. Again, I'll want to have a blank slide here, but I'll want this to be a square, because if this is a dice, then it needs to be a square slide rather than a rectangle. How do we do that? Well, if we head to the Design tab at the top here, you can see on the right-hand side we have Slide Size. If I click on it, I only get the standard and widescreen, but you do have the option for Custom Slide Size. So if we choose the custom slide size, there we are, I'll get it out in the end, then we can set the width and the height to be the same. It doesn't really matter what we use. Let's set the width to 30 centimeters rather than meters, and then we'll set the height to be the same. That's just quite arbitrary, doesn't really make a lot of difference. Click OK and just click Ensure Fit, doesn't make much difference at this point. And there we are, we now have a square slide that we can now use. Now once we've done that, we can then create the sides of our slide. Now you can do this however you want. In the demonstration I showed you earlier, I had the numbers on the sides of the dice, and you could do that for the different sides, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Or you could have, of course, different sections as well. What I'm going to do is just have a sort of a traditional dice, I suppose, here with the dots on it. So I'm going to set that to black with no outline. I'm going to start by putting that in the middle there, just like that. However, just to make it look a little different, I'm going to put a border around this. So I'm going to draw another rectangle with no fill color, but with an outline, and let's do a thick blue outline around the outside of the face. So we'll just line that up so it's centered like that. There we go. So this will be the face of the number 1 dice. Now once we've done that, of course, we can click on the left with the preview here, and we can Control D to duplicate it. And then I can change this to be a 2 dice, which has 1 up there. And I'm going to click with the Control key pressed down and drag to make a copy of that dot. There's the number 2, and then duplicate it again, and let's make this into a 3. There we go. And then duplicate it again, and we'll have this as a 4. I'll do this quite quickly. Obviously you can spend a bit longer on this, getting it all nicely lined up. And as I say, you don't have to have numbers. It doesn't have to be a dice. It can just simply be pictures, perhaps, if you want to. So let's do the final one there, a number 6. We'll just move those up like that, move that in there, get rid of those 2. Select all of those, Control click and drag across. There we go. So those are the 6 faces of the dice that I'm going to use. Now once we've done that, what I'm going to do is save this, and I'm going to save this as I'm going to go into 3D dice, and then I'm going to create a new folder, new nums. There we go. And inside there, I'm going to change this from saving it as a PowerPoint to saving this as JPEGs. There we are. So when I do that, I'll just call this nums. There we are, like that. What happens if we click all slides is PowerPoint now creates a folder inside of which are all of the pictures. So these slides now are saved individually as pictures. So if I show you that, let me just drag this over onto here. So you can see that I've got a folder. It's automatically created that, called nums, and inside we've got the 6 pictures there, and each of these pictures is a JPEG. It's an image file. So that's the first step. So once you've created your slides with the sides on them, the next thing to do is to open up Blender. Now don't worry if you've never used Blender before. I will show you the basics of it. I'm not going to show you anything you don't need to know, but I am going to show you everything you do need to know. If you've not used it before and this tutorial makes you think, actually this is quite cool, I quite like this, there are already some videos on my channel about using Blender, although Blender did have an update fairly recently to a version called 2.8. And that's the version you'll be downloading, and this is the one you're looking at here now. However, some of the older tutorials that I did do use a previous version of Blender, so it might look a little confusing. However, I am going to be doing lots more Blender tutorials on this channel, so if you're interested in learning more and it's a completely new thing for you, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you know exactly when new tutorials using Blender are available. Now the first step to looking at Blender, if we use the wheel on the mouse, you can see I can zoom in and out on that cube, and if I right click, if I press and hold the wheel down, if I press and hold the wheel down, I can rotate around this object. So the wheel to zoom in and out, press and hold the wheel to rotate around the object. Now the first thing that most people do when they're doing a Blender tutorial is delete the cube in the middle. However, we actually want the cube in this case, so we're going to use the cube, so we don't want to get rid of it. It's a dice, so that's perfect for us. Now just click on the dice once with the left mouse button to make sure you have this orange outline around the outside of it. That means that it's selected. There are 2 other objects you'll see floating around. There's this one over here, which is a camera, and this little circle here is a light. We don't really need them, but we're not going to bother getting rid of them for this tutorial. So simply make sure that you've clicked once on the cube and it is selected. Now, once we've done that, we need to go into the modeling view. So at the top left of your screen, you'll see a little drop-down menu that currently says Object Mode. And if I click on that, there are a few others. We only need one other, and that's Edit Mode. So click on Edit Mode, and that will go into a view which would allow us to distort this cube if we wanted to, so we can push, pull and play around with it to create a different model. Again, we're not going to worry about anything to do with that. All we are going to do is tell it what picture to put on each of the 6 sides. That's literally all we need to do here. So to do that, first of all, you can see that the whole cube is orange, which means the whole thing is selected. We don't want that for the moment. So in order to make sure that we don't have the cube selected, we hold down the Alt key and then press A. If we just press A by itself, the whole thing gets selected. If we hold down Alt and then tap A, nothing is selected. So that's what we want. But we do want to select the first face of our cube. Now, it doesn't really matter which way you do this. If you want to be authentic and do the sides as they actually are, then I'll try. I haven't actually got a dice in front of me. I probably should have done that, but I'll try and remember how that is. But of course, you can do it however you want, really. To select a side, though, first of all, if we just have a look at the top here, you'll see that just after this Edit Mode menu that we've just chosen, there are 3 small icons here, and those allow us to change the way we select the parts of this cube. So the first one is the vertices, the corners, the second one is the edges, and the third one is the faces. We want that one. So click on the third little one there that looks like a big white square at the front of a cube, and that means that if we click with our left mouse button on this cube, we can select any one of these faces. So I'm going to select this face here first of all, and that's going to have the picture of the number 1 on it. So how do we add the texture? We're going to go through this process, but of course we'll have to do this 6 times for the 6 faces. So this will give you plenty of practice. So don't worry if you don't get it the first time. I'm obviously going to be doing this a few times. I'll get quicker and quicker, but I will talk you through every step. So first of all, don't forget I'm pressing and holding down the mouse wheel in order to be able to look around and change my view. And then with the left mouse button, I've clicked on one of the faces to select it. Now on the right hand side, you'll see that there's a vertical line of little icons, some of which are coloured. And the one at the very bottom looks like a circle with a sort of a filled in section and then a blank section filled in and blank, sort of red and black, I suppose. If you hover over it, it says material, and that's the one we want. So we're going to click once on that icon, and that brings us to this list of options. Again, don't worry about the fact that there's tons of options there. This is a professional 3D modeling program. It's been used in TV and advertising. It is a really, really very good program. But of course, it does have a lot of advanced features, so it might look a little scary, but honestly, it's a brilliant program, and I strongly recommend that you follow some of the tutorials and learn a little bit more about it. Hopefully this will whet your appetite. Anyway, we've clicked on this little button here. We have a drop-down list, and we need to create a new material for each of the 6 sides. So this is what we do. First of all, on the right-hand side, we can see the plus button here, and we click that once to add a new slot for a new material. Then we click this new button at the bottom here to make the new material, and then finally we click the assign button to assign that new material to the face that we've selected. So plus, new, assign. We'll be doing those 3 things a few times. Now, of course, nothing has changed on this side here because, of course, we don't have the material. We haven't told it what material to add. Down here, we've got base color, and if you wanted to just color the sides, you could use that, but we don't. We want to add a picture, the pictures that we've made and saved in this folder earlier on. So what we're going to do instead is click on the little circle on the right-hand side here, and that will give us a pop-up list of options, and the one we want is image texture, just here. So you'll see image texture. We click on that one. Again, nothing happens because we now need to tell it which image it is. And there's a little open button now appears just underneath, which allows us to open the image that we want. If I click on that, we can see it opens up this window here, and we simply need to go to the folder. Going to go desktop, TT, 3D dice, nums. Oh, it's new nums, wasn't it? I saved. There we are, and then nums. And then you can see, and in fact we can change the view up here, display mode, to thumbnails. So I can see these pictures here, which I saved earlier on. And for this one, I want the number 1. So I'm simply going to select number 1, double click it, and there we are. Now, of course, we still can't see it. Well, I say, of course, you may be assuming that you can see it, but there are 2 things we need to do here before we actually see it appear. The first thing is at the top, you can see that there are some little circles here, and these allow us to look at the object in different ways. The first one is wireframe, which allows us to sort of see through the cube to the other side. This one is solid, and then if we click on the second one, the third one there, you can see that we've got part of that original image. So this number 1 picture here, because that black circle in the middle is appearing there, but there's a problem, it's too big. So what we need to do now is to tell the computer, or tell Blender, how to map the picture we've made onto this. We basically want it to be the same size. So to do that, at the top of your screen, find a tab, this one here, called UV Editing, and click on that. Now this will split your screen in half, and you'll see on the right hand side the model again. It might just get turned around, so just turn it back around if you want to do that. Zoom in, and if I want to see the preview, the little circles are slightly hidden because there's this panel on the right hand side. What I'm going to do is just put my mouse on the edge of this panel somewhere so that I get that double white arrow. Click and drag across a little bit like that until I can see those little circles at the top again. There's the wireframe, there's the solid, and if I click on that third one, there we are, we can now see the preview, and then I can just grab that edge and bring it back in again. Oops, that one there, like that. Now the left hand half, if I just use the wheel to zoom out, this is the picture, and this section here, these little 4 lines, are the edges around the outside of the face of the dice. So all I need to do is to click on the edge and move it to the edge of the picture. However, before we do that, at the top here we need to select the way in which we select things, because at the moment, of course, we were still doing face select earlier on. The default is vertex select, and if I zoom in, you'll see that if I click on these edges, all I'm able to do is select the corners, and I want to select the whole edge in one go. So at the top here we have the first little icon there, which is the vertex selection mode. The second one is what I want, it's edge selection, and the third one we can see in the little tooltip there, oops, that one there, says face selection. So it's this second little icon here, hover over it, and you'll see it says edge. So click on that one, and now if I click on these lines, you'll see I'm able to select the whole edge in one go. Right, so how do we move the edges? Well, it is quite simple. If I click on this edge here and I press the letter G on my keyboard, just tap it and let go, G for go or grab, then I can move this line up. The problem is, of course, as you can see, that as I move it around, it's sort of possible to go at an angle, and I don't want that. So after I've pressed G to grab it, I'm then going to press Y to lock it to the Y axis, which is the vertical axis. And now when I move my mouse around, I can't help but just go vertically up, which makes sure that those lines are parallel to the edge of the picture. So I'm going to click there. And there we are, that's the first one. And you can see the preview on the right hand side starting to look a little better. But let's now do the same thing with this bottom line here. So again, I'm going to click once, then I'm going to press G, and I'm not pressing anything with the mouse or keyboard, I'm just moving the mouse around, and you can see again I'm able to move in any direction. So I'm going to lock it to the Y axis by pressing the letter Y and then just moving the mouse down to the bottom area like that. Next, I click the left-hand edge and G to grab it. Again, I want to lock it to, now in this case, it's the X axis. So press the letter X to lock it to the X axis, move it to the edge and click. And then finally click this edge, G to grab it, X to lock it to the X axis, and just move it near the edge and click. And you can see, having done that, we now have that picture perfectly lined up on the face of the dice. We can see the 1 is in the middle there, and you can see that blue edge that I added is perfectly lined up on the face of that dice. So there we are. We have now added our first face. Now that might have seemed a bit fiddly, but of course I was explaining every step carefully as I went along. So let's do that a little bit quicker now and see how we can do that more easily. Now at the top here, we were in UV editing. Let's go back to modeling, which is this tab over here. That takes us back to this view. And of course we can just change the view at the top right here back so that we can see the preview. There we are. And now it's time to add the next face. So I'm going to add the number 2 this time. So first of all, I click on the top face. Now I do have face select still selected. We did that earlier on, so that shouldn't have changed. So we click on the face. On the right hand side, we click on this material button here, and then we go plus, new, assign. Then we come down to base color and click on the circle on the right hand side and choose image texture, and then click the open button to open the folder. And we usually have in the recent section there a list of the recent folders. So if I click on nums there and just click the thumbnail, you can see that I've got these readily available. Let's add the number 2. So double click it. Now we are. You can still see a little bit of a preview there, the blue line, but we know it's not in the right place. So having added the material, we then switch back to UV editing. And there we are, it's the same process. So I've already got edge select, so I don't have to keep changing that each time. I simply click on the first edge, G to grab, Y to lock it to the Y axis, and move it up to the top. The bottom's already in place, so that's fine. Click on the left edge, G to grab it, and then X to lock it to the X axis, and then grab the right hand one, G to grab it, X to lock it to the X axis and move it into position, and there we are. We've got that number 2 face done. So that was not so bad, was it? Once you set up the way you select the faces and you've set up the views, it's not so bad. So let's now go back to modeling at the top and click on the third face, which is this one here. That's going to be the number 3. So with the face selected, let's click the plus button to add a new material slot. Click New to add a new material, and Assign to assign that material. Then in base color, click on the circle and choose Image Texture, and then click Open to open that texture, and it'll be number 3. Then switch to UV editing so that we can make sure that this face of the dice matches the image. So click on the top one, G to grab, Y to lock it to the Y axis, G to grab, Y to lock it to the Y axis. And you can see on the right hand side as I do this, so click GX and then click GX. So saying you can see on the right hand side the preview as I move this around how that looks. So that's now fine. So if I go back to modeling again at the top, so I have the first 3 faces of my dice, and I think 1, 2, 3 anti-clockwise there is correct. What you have to remember, of course, is that the opposite sides of a dice add up to 7. So I can then work out what needs to be on the other sides of the dice by working out what number adds to 7, if of course you're doing a dice at all. So let's now work out the next one. So number 4 should go opposite the 3, so that is up to 7. So this face here should be the number 4. So let's click on the face, click plus, new, assign, base color, click the circle, image texture, and then open that image texture, and that will be our number 4. and then go to UV editing to just put that image so that it's exactly lined up. So GY for the top and bottom ones, GX for the left and right ones. GX. If you have any questions or any problems, do of course always feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know. I do read all comments and I do reply or try to reply to all comments, even if it's a quick thank you for your comment, or I try and answer your questions if you have those. So do feel free to leave any comments if you feel that you need extra help. So now the 5 should be opposite the 2. So that's that one on the bottom there. Don't forget, I'm pressing and holding the mouse wheel to move around my dice. So click on this one here and then plus, new, assign, circle and image texture, and open the texture number 5. And then open up UV editing and then just move these down. So GY and then GX, and then finally GX on this side. And now we'll click on modeling one more time, and now of course we just need the number 6, which is opposite the 1, so we click on the side for 6, plus, new, assign, image texture, open texture number 6, and then UV editing to move the edges into place. So GY, click GY, click on the left, GX, and then click on the right. There we are, GX. Oh, and also the 3D models that I make, as well as the PowerPoint files, and in fact everything else that you see, are all available to download free from my Patreon page. So thank you very much indeed to those of you who have already signed up to Patreon and support the channel. It's really, really kind of you. Makes a huge difference. So thank you very much indeed. If you just sign up to patreon.com/thetechtrain, then you can download all the files you see in all my videos. They're all there available to download, and do as you will with them. Right, there we are. We've now done the number 6, so you can see that if I roll around this dice, you can see all the sides of it fine. So we've finished with UV editing. Excuse me, we finished with modeling as well. So we can now go out of edit mode. So if I come out of edit mode and back into object mode, this is now where we started, so we can see the object properly. There's the camera and the light and everything, and we have our finished dice. Now, in order to get this into PowerPoint, we can't just save this in Blender and then put it straight into PowerPoint. The model itself would work. You would see the cube, or whatever model it was, in PowerPoint. But the textures and the way we've done the textures almost certainly won't. It's very hit and miss. It's not really the case that PowerPoint and Blender talk to each other perfectly. That's why we use this 3D Builder program I told you about earlier on. A 3D program available that's free of charge with Windows 10. You can see some of the previews of the one I did earlier on here. And this allows us to go from Blender to PowerPoint through that program. So let's save this now as an object. So we go to the File menu, and you'll want to just save it ordinarily as a Blender file, of course. I'm not going to worry about doing that just yet, but save it as a Blender file so you can come back and make changes later on. But in this case, we're going to export it. So we're going to export this file so that we can then open it up in 3D Builder and then open it up in PowerPoint. So we click on export, and the file type we want is the wavefront.obj. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to go back into the nums folder again, and I'm going to save this as dice model, like that, and then click export obj. There we are. So if I bring this folder back onto here, you can see I've got the folder here with all the image files in it, and I also have this dice model object here that I've just saved. So what I have to do now is to open this file in the 3D Builder program. So I'm just going to minimize Blender for the moment and open up the 3D Builder program, and I'm going to click on New Scene just here, and then I'm going to click on Insert and then Add to add a 3D object. So I'm going to click on Load Object here, and then I'm going to go back to TT 3D Dice, New nums, there we are, and that's the .obj model I just exported from Blender. So I'm going to double click that, just wait a moment, and there we are, that now appears. I can use the wheel on my mouse to still move in and out, and I can use the left mouse button, if I just press and hold the left mouse button, to look around it on all sides. So there we are, we can see that 3D model. We don't have to do anything to it at all. We're not doing anything other than opening it in this program and then saving it. Seems a bit daft, but it works. So I'm now going to click the tick at the top to import the model. There we are, so that's all fine. And once we've imported it, all we need to do is click on the 3 lines on the left-hand side here and save it. So Save As. So I'm going to click on Save As, and this time we'll call it Dice Model Finished, or Fished apparently. Finished, there we are, like that. And you see it's saving it as a 3MF format. So that's the format that PowerPoint needs. And you'll see now, if I just drag this folder back in here, so we have these files here are the images, there's the model, and you'll see this is the model that we've just exported from the 3D Builder. And you can see it is obviously a thumbnail of a 3D object. Let's open up the PowerPoint file here that we had earlier on and insert that 3D object. So if I click Insert, there's the 3D Models button, and I click the bottom half of it, and then we choose From a File. So I'm going to go back to the desktop and TT and 3D Dice and New Nums and Nums, there we are. And you'll see that there are 2 files that it can see. The one I exported from Blender, the .obj, which we couldn't really import here. And then this one, the one I called Finished, which is the one that the 3D Builder, then we just opened this file and saved it. That was all we did. If I double click it, then we will get in a moment this, and you'll see this little icon in the middle there with the 2 interlocking circles. If I click on that with my mouse, I can rotate this around, just clicking and dragging with my mouse to rotate this and have this however I like. So it is a 3D model in PowerPoint that we can do whatever we want with. I'll show you a couple of very quick things that we can do with this. So let's start off by having this as a number 1. Let me just resize this slightly. A number 1 on slide 1. I'm then going to press Control D to duplicate this slide, and then I'm going to change this to show number 2. There we go. And then I'm going to click on the slide on the left and Control D again, and then change that to number 3. There it is. Now, if I then go into transitions and I choose the Morph Transition and I click Apply to All, then you'll see when I run the presentation, I'll have my dice showing the number 1. As I go to slide 2, the dice spins around to show number 2. And then if I click it again, it spins around to show number 3. And I can go backwards if I want to as well. So by using the Morph Transition on a 3D object, you can actually then show different slides. So if you had different topic titles, different icons, different pictures, different colors, whatever you wanted to, the dice could sort of show you at what point you are in your presentation, or what topic it is, or what kind of thing it is you're doing, a top tip or revision idea or something like that. The other thing you can do is to add an animation to this. So let me just delete those 2 here for a minute, change the transition and just bring this dice into the middle again. And you can add an animation to this. If we go into the Animations tab at the top, you'll see we now have some animations you wouldn't normally see. So we have arrive, turntable, swing, jump and turn, and leave. And these are all animations especially for 3D models. So if we click arrive, for example, you can see that that 3D model kind of fades in and then rotates a little as well. So we've got that one. You've also got a turntable, which is something that simply rotates it around and spins it around. If we just go into the animation pane and I double click this animation here, we can actually set the amount to whatever we want. So 360, I could have that as 9,999, which I think is the biggest you can possibly have. And click OK, and you'll see that now spins around madly for 20 seconds. And of course, you could have it finish on whatever face you wanted to. If you wanted to have a spinning dice animation, you could do that. And then you've got swing, which is the same thing in a way, but swinging backwards and forwards, sort of waving in the breeze there. Jump and turn, so it squashes it a little bit and spins around. Again, maybe good for an animation. And finally, an exit with leave, so similar to the arrive. So there we are, a fully 3D dice, totally customizable. You could have your school or college or business logo on it. You could have, as I say, icons on each side, people's faces on each side. If you wanted to have individual people's faces on here, you could do that just as easily. And everything is free. So obviously if you've got PowerPoint already and you've got Windows 10, then you have everything you need. You just simply need to make sure you get the 3D Builder program, which is free with Windows 10. Again, I'll leave the link below. And Blender, which is also completely free. Again, I'll leave the link below. And that's it. So not too terrifying. Hopefully that was okay for you. As I say, if you have any questions, do please leave comments below and I will do my best to reply as soon as possible to those. If this was your first introduction to PowerPoint, then fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you perhaps look at the idea of looking at more of these tutorials. More are definitely on the way. So leave a like if you think that you'd like to see more of these Blender and PowerPoint videos. And of course, leave a like if you liked it anyway. That would be just kind. That'd be wonderful, especially as I'm recording this on Christmas Day right now. So perhaps you could leave a like just simply because of the fact that I'm committed to this channel. If you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to click that subscribe button before you go and click the bell so you know exactly when new video goes live. Remember, this file and the demonstration one at the beginning are available to download free from my Patreon page, patreon.com/thetechtrain. And I will upload the next video on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 o'clock UK time, and that's 11 in the morning Central Time. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.